Mom always wanted bingo night on Tuesdays. It was her little escape, a chance to gossip with the ladies and maybe win a few dollars. Tonight was no different. "Be good for your dad," she said, giving me a quick hug before grabbing her purse and heading out the door. Dad wasn't really my dad, but my stepdad, Tom. He was Mom's age, 59, with kind eyes and a smile that crinkled the corners. He was always helpful, fixing things around the house and making sure we had everything we needed. As the door clicked shut, Tom wandered into the living room. "Anything I can help with before I settle in to watch the game?" he asked, adjusting his glasses. I was lugging the overflowing laundry basket from my room. It was heavier than I thought. "Actually," I said, "maybe you could help me with this. It's all clean, just needs folding." "Sure thing," Tom replied, his smile widening. "Happy to lend a hand." He followed me to the laundry room, a small, cramped space just off the kitchen. The air smelled of fresh detergent and sunshine. I set the basket down on the floor a little too quickly. It wobbled, then tipped over with a soft thud, scattering its contents across the linoleum. My face flushed hot as my underwear, a lacy pink pair, landed right at Tom's feet. My bra, a simple white one, followed, along with socks, t-shirts, and jeans. It looked like a small explosion of fabric. "Oh my gosh," I mumbled, mortified. "I'm so sorry." Tom didn't say anything for a moment. He just stood there, looking down at the pile of clothes. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. It wasn't just embarrassment, there was something else, a strange fluttery feeling in my stomach. "Don't worry about it," he finally said, his voice a little rougher than usual. "Accidents happen." He bent down, his knees cracking slightly, and started gathering the scattered items. His hand brushed against my pink underwear, and I sucked in a breath. He quickly moved his hand away, but the contact had already sent a jolt through me. I stayed frozen, watching him. The laundry room suddenly felt very small, the air thick and heavy. I should have been helping him, picking up my own clothes, but I couldn't seem to move. It was like I was stuck in a strange, uncomfortable dream. The fluorescent light above us buzzed, adding to the tension in the room. Each movement of his felt deliberate and amplified. He carefully folded a pair of my jeans, avoiding my gaze. He stacked the folded jeans on top of the washing machine, his movements slow and deliberate. I watched the muscles in his back flex beneath his thin t-shirt. He looked up, catching my gaze. His eyes were a mix of surprise and something else I couldn't quite decipher. Confusion, maybe? Or was it curiosity? I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. I knew I should say something, anything, to break the awkward silence. But the words seemed to catch in my throat. My mind was racing, a chaotic jumble of thoughts and feelings. What was I doing? This was wrong. So wrong. He was my stepdad, Mom's husband. But then another, more insistent voice whispered in my head. A voice that reminded me of the way he always made me feel safe, the way he always listened when I talked, the way he seemed to see me, really see me, unlike anyone else. The voice told me that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just an accident. Maybe there was a reason this was happening. He reached for my bra, his fingers hovering over the soft fabric. I held my breath, waiting. The fluorescent light seemed to intensify, casting harsh shadows on his face. I could see the faint lines around his eyes, the silver strands in his hair. He looked older, somehow, but also vulnerable. He looked at me again, a question in his eyes. It was then, in that moment, that I whispered the words. "It's okay," I whispered, my voice barely audible above the hum of the fluorescent light. My eyes were locked on his, pleading and daring all at once. I could see the surprise register on his face, followed by a flicker of something else. Recognition? Desire? I couldn't be sure. The air crackled with unspoken tension. Every second stretched into an eternity. He stood frozen, my bra still dangling from his fingertips. He looked down at it, then back up at me, his eyes searching mine. It was like he was asking permission, seeking reassurance that this wasn't some kind of cruel joke. My heart hammered against my ribs. I knew this was wrong, that I should take back the words, apologize, pretend it never happened. But I couldn't. Something inside me, a deep-seated longing, wouldn't let me. I wanted to see what would happen, to push the boundaries, to explore the forbidden territory that lay between us. I moistened my lips, my gaze unwavering. I wanted him to know I meant it, that I wasn't just teasing him. This was a choice, a conscious decision to cross a line. The consequences, whatever they might be, didn't matter in this moment. All that mattered was the electric current that flowed between us, binding us together in a silent, dangerous pact. The weight of my unspoken desires suddenly felt like a physical thing. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed, his gaze flickering down to my lips and then back up to my eyes. He seemed to be searching for any sign of hesitation, any indication that I didn't mean what I said. But my expression remained steady, unwavering. I wanted him to understand that this was my choice, my desire. He slowly reached out his other hand, his fingers brushing against the lace of my underwear. The touch was light, almost hesitant, but it sent a shiver down my spine. It was a confirmation, a silent agreement to the unspoken pact we had just made. My breath hitched in my throat. The laundry room seemed to shrink even further, the walls closing in around us. The air was thick with anticipation, heavy with the weight of our shared secret. I could feel the heat radiating from his body, drawing me closer. I closed my eyes for a moment, savoring the sensation. It was wrong, I knew, but it felt so right. So exhilarating. So dangerous. I imagined Mom, laughing with her friends at bingo, completely oblivious to what was happening just a few miles away. A wave of guilt washed over me, but it was quickly overshadowed by the thrill of the moment. This was my secret, my rebellion. And I wasn't ready to let it go. The silence hung heavy, broken only by the frantic pounding of my heart. Tom's face was a mask of conflicting emotions. I saw surprise, yes, but also fear? Disbelief? He looked like a deer caught in headlights, unsure whether to run or stand his ground. I wondered what was going through his mind. Was he disgusted? Tempted? Did he feel the same electric current that was coursing through me? He finally broke the silence, his voice a low, gravelly whisper. Are you sure? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. He wasn't just asking if I wanted him to touch my underwear. He was asking if I understood the consequences of my actions, if I was prepared to cross the line we were standing on. My mind raced. What was I doing? This was insane. He was my stepdad, a man I had known and trusted for years. A man who was supposed to be a father figure, not this. Guilt gnawed at me, a sharp, stinging pain in my chest. But beneath the guilt, there was something else, a flicker of excitement, a sense of forbidden pleasure. I thought about Mom, her trusting smile, her unwavering belief in Tom. How could I do this to her? How could I betray her like this? But then I thought about the way Tom looked at me sometimes, the way he always seemed to understand me better than anyone else. The way he made me feel special. And the guilt faded, replaced by a burning desire to see where this would lead. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. Yes, I whispered, my voice trembling slightly. I'm sure. The words were a release, a surrender to the inevitable. My confirmation seemed to snap him out of his daze. He blinked, as if trying to clear his head, and a look of resolve settled over his features. But beneath the resolve, I still saw a flicker of hesitation, a hint of the internal struggle he was waging. He knew this was wrong, that it could ruin everything, but the temptation, it seemed, was too strong to resist. He took a step closer, closing the small distance between us. The air crackled with an almost palpable energy. I could smell his aftershave, a familiar scent that suddenly felt charged with a new, forbidden meaning. He reached out and gently brushed a stray strand of hair from my face, his fingers lingering on my cheek. The touch was featherlight, but it sent a jolt of electricity through my entire body. I shouldn't, he murmured, his voice rough with emotion. It wasn't a question, but a statement, a desperate plea for me to stop him. But I didn't want him to stop. I wanted him to keep going, to push the boundaries, to explore the uncharted territory that lay before us. I reached out and took his hand, lacing my fingers through his. His hand was warm and calloused, familiar and comforting. But in this moment, it felt different, charged with a new, dangerous energy. I squeezed his hand gently, silently urging him forward. The decision had been made. There was no turning back now. The gravity of the situation, the potential consequences, faded into the background, replaced by the overwhelming desire to experience the unknown. Maybe it was the loneliness that had been creeping into my life lately. Mom was always busy with her bingo and her friends, and I felt like I was just there. Invisible. Tom, though, he always seemed to notice me. He'd ask about my day, listen to my worries, make me feel like I mattered. Or maybe it was the attention I craved. I was at that awkward age, not quite a kid anymore, but not quite a woman either. I felt lost and confused, unsure of who I was or what I wanted. And Tom, with his kind eyes and gentle smile, made me feel seen. He made me feel desirable, even if it was in a way that was completely wrong. Maybe it was a way to rebel, to lash out against the expectations that were constantly being placed upon me. Be a good daughter. Get good grades. Don't cause trouble. It felt like I was suffocating under the weight of it all. And this was a way to break free, to defy the rules, to finally feel like I was in control. Or maybe, just maybe, it was something simpler. A silly crush that had grown out of control, fueled by boredom and a desperate need for connection. Whatever the reason, I was standing there, hand in hand with my stepdad, about to cross a line that could never be uncrossed. The weight of that realization settled over me, heavy and suffocating. But it was too late to turn back. I had made my choice. The die had been cast. And all that was left to do was wait and see what would happen next. The world outside the laundry room ceased to exist. He tightened his grip on my hand, his thumb tracing circles on the back of my palm. The sensation was electrifying, sending shivers racing up my arm. He lifted my hand to his lips, his eyes never leaving mine, and pressed a soft kiss to my knuckles. It was a chaste gesture, but it felt incredibly intimate, a promise of things to come. He released my hand and slowly reached out, his fingers trembling slightly, and gently touched my cheek again. His skin was warm and dry against mine. He brushed his thumb across my lower lip, his gaze intensifying. I parted my lips slightly, inviting him closer. He lowered his head, his breath warm on my face. I could smell the faint scent of his aftershave and the lingering aroma of laundry detergent. His lips brushed against mine, a tentative, hesitant touch. I closed my eyes, savoring the moment. The kiss deepened, his lips parting slightly, inviting me to respond. I hesitated for a moment, then leaned in, surrendering to the temptation. His lips were soft and warm, and the taste of him was both familiar and forbidden. The kiss was slow and gentle at first, but it quickly grew more passionate, more demanding. My heart was pounding in my chest, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. I wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him closer, deepening the kiss. The world around me faded away, and all that mattered was the feel of his lips on mine, the warmth of his body against mine, the intoxicating thrill of the moment. It was a transgression, a betrayal, a sin. But in that moment, it was everything I had ever wanted. I pulled back slightly, breaking the kiss. I looked into his eyes, searching for something, anything. Fear? Regret? Desire? I saw a mix of all three, but I also saw something else, a willingness to let me lead. I stepped back, gently pulling him with me, away from the scattered laundry and towards the far corner of the room, near the washing machine. He followed willingly, his gaze fixed on mine. I felt a surge of power, a sense of control I had never experienced before. This wasn't just happening to me, I was making it happen. I leaned against the washing machine, my body trembling slightly. I reached out and unbuttoned the top button of his shirt, my fingers brushing against his chest. He sucked in a breath, his eyes widening slightly. I unbuttoned another button and another until his shirt was open, revealing a glimpse of his chest. He didn't say a word, didn't try to stop me. He just stood there, letting me take control, letting me lead him down this dangerous path. I reached up and ran my fingers through his hair, pulling him closer. I kissed him again, harder this time, my tongue tracing the seam of his lips. He moaned softly, surrendering completely to my will. In that moment, I wasn't just a teenage girl anymore. I was a woman, confident and in control, and he was completely and utterly mine. The laundry room transformed from a cramped, mundane space into a stage for our forbidden desire. The scent of soap and longing hung heavy in the air. I knew this was a pivotal moment, and I was the one writing the script. For a fleeting moment, the intoxicating haze lifted, and a wave of clarity washed over me. I saw, with stark and terrifying precision, the potential fallout of our actions. Mom. What would this do to Mom? It would shatter her world, destroy her trust, and leave her heartbroken. Our family, already fragile, would crumble into dust. And what about Tom? He could lose everything, his marriage, his reputation, everything he had worked so hard to build. He could even face legal consequences. And me? I would be branded, shamed, ostracized. My life, barely begun, would be forever tainted. The thought of the devastation we could unleash sent a shiver of fear down my spine. Was this really worth it? Was this fleeting moment of forbidden pleasure worth risking everything? The answer, I knew, was no. But even as the thought formed in my mind, I couldn't bring myself to stop. The momentum was too strong, the desire too overwhelming. It was like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing that one wrong step would send me plummeting into the abyss, but being unable to resist the pull of gravity. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the images of the future, trying to silence the voice of reason in my head. I clung to the present moment, to the feel of Tom's lips on mine, to the intoxicating sensation of being completely and utterly lost in the moment. The consequences, I told myself, could wait. For now, all that mattered was this. The weight of my decision settled upon me, heavy and suffocating. But I pressed on, driven by a force I couldn't control. It wasn't just lust, though that was certainly a part of it. It was more complicated than that, a tangled web of emotions that I couldn't fully unravel. There was a desperate need for connection, a yearning to be seen and understood. There was a desire for rebellion, a need to break free from the constraints of my life. And there was a strange, twisted sense of affection, a misguided belief that Tom cared for me in a way that went beyond the bounds of a stepfatherly relationship. He wasn't just some random man. He was Tom, the man who had been a constant presence in my life for years. The man who had helped me with my homework, driven me to soccer practice, and comforted me when I was sad. The man who, despite not being my biological father, had always treated me like his own daughter. But now he was something else entirely. He was a forbidden desire, a dangerous temptation, a secret that could shatter everything. And I was drawn to him, not just by lust, but by a complex mix of emotions that I couldn't fully comprehend. There was a vulnerability in his eyes, a sadness that mirrored my own. It was like we were two lost souls, searching for solace in each other's arms, even though we knew it was wrong. It was a desperate attempt to fill a void, to find something that was missing in our lives. It was a dangerous game we were playing, one that could have devastating consequences. But in that moment, as his arms tightened around me, as his lips pressed against mine, I didn't care. All that mattered was the feeling of being close to him, of being connected to someone who understood me, even if that understanding was twisted and forbidden. The complex tapestry of our emotions wove itself tighter. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway shattered the moment, ripping us back to reality with brutal force. Mom. My heart leaped into my throat, and I pulled away from Tom, my body trembling. She's early, I whispered, my voice filled with panic. What do we do? Tom's eyes widened with alarm, and he quickly buttoned his shirt, his fingers fumbling in his haste. The color drained from his face, and he looked like a cornered animal. The sound of the car door slamming shut sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. We had mere seconds to regain our composure, to erase any trace of what had just happened. The laundry, I hissed, frantically gathering the scattered clothes from the floor. Tom helped, his movements jerky and uncoordinated. We shoved everything back into the basket, the lacy underwear and the bra now imbued with a sense of shame and guilt. The key turned in the lock and the front door creaked open. Mom's voice echoed through the house. Hello? I'm home. We froze, our eyes meeting in a silent pact of fear and desperation. The laundry room, moments ago a haven of forbidden desire, now felt like a trap, a place where our secret could be exposed at any moment. The carefree evening we had anticipated had turned into a nightmare. The interruption served as a stark reminder of the world outside our little bubble. I grabbed the laundry basket, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it steady. "I'll take this to my room," I said, trying to sound casual as if nothing had happened. Tom quickly straightened his shirt, smoothing it down with trembling hands. He took a deep breath, trying to regain his composure. "Hey, honey," he said, his voice a little strained. "You're back early." Mom walked into the kitchen, her bingo bag slung over her shoulder. "Yeah, Mrs. Henderson won the jackpot, so everyone cleared out. What are you two doing?" She glanced at the laundry basket in my hands, then at Tom, her brow furrowing slightly. "Just helping with the laundry," Tom said, forcing a smile. She dropped the basket, and I was helping her pick it up. "Oh," Mom said, her gaze lingering on us for a moment longer than necessary. I could feel my face flushing, and I prayed she wouldn't notice anything amiss. "Well, thanks for helping," she said, finally turning away. "I'm going to make some tea. Anyone want some?" "I'll have some," Tom said, his voice still a little shaky. "Me too," I mumbled, eager to escape the awkward situation. I grabbed the laundry basket and hurried out of the laundry room, my heart pounding in my chest. I could feel their eyes on me as I walked away, the weight of our secret pressing down on me like a physical burden. The immediate threat had passed, but the tension lingered, thick and suffocating. Upstairs in my room, I dumped the laundry basket on my bed, the clothes now tainted with a sense of shame and excitement. I couldn't bring myself to fold them. The air in my room felt thick, suffocating. Downstairs, I could hear Mom and Tom talking in the kitchen, their voices low and hushed. I strained my ears, trying to decipher their words, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. I imagined them sitting at the kitchen table, sipping their tea, the unspoken tension hanging heavy between them. Later, at dinner, the atmosphere was strained. Mom chattered on about bingo, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Tom was quiet, his gaze averted, his movements stiff and unnatural. I could feel the weight of their unspoken thoughts, the secret that now bound us together. Every glance, every gesture, felt loaded with meaning. I wondered if Mom suspected anything, if she could sense the shift in the dynamic between Tom and me. I picked at my food, my appetite gone. The familiar comfort of our family dinners had been replaced by an unsettling sense of unease. After dinner, I retreated to my room, desperate for solitude. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of the house. I knew things would never be the same again. The line had been crossed, and there was no going back. The laundry room incident had changed everything, leaving a lingering tension that permeated every corner of our home. The comfortable illusion of normalcy was shattered. Lying in bed that night, I replayed the events of the evening in my mind, over and over again. Had I made the right decision? Was it really my decision to make? The guilt gnawed at me, a constant reminder of the betrayal I had committed. But beneath the guilt, there was a flicker of something else, a strange sense of satisfaction, a twisted pride in having taken control, in having broken free from the constraints of my life. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if Tom and I would ever speak of that night again, or if we would pretend it never happened. I didn't know if Mom would ever find out, or if we would be able to keep our secret forever. All I knew was that things had changed, irrevocably. The world, once familiar and predictable, now felt uncertain and dangerous. I had stepped into a realm of forbidden desire, and there was no turning back. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the images of Tom, of Mom, of the laundry room, of everything that had happened. But the images persisted, swirling around in my head like a chaotic vortex. Sleep eluded me. The weight of my secret pressed down on me, heavy and suffocating. I was trapped, caught between guilt and desire, between the past and the future. And as I drifted off into a restless sleep, I knew that the unease would linger, a constant reminder of the night I had crossed the line. The question of whether it was worth it remained unanswered, hanging heavy in the air, unresolved and unsettling. The world felt permanently tilted on its axis.